I came home to find my life stuffed into garbage bags at the gate. My mom, Emily, stood there with my brother, Jake, and sister, Sarah, filming like it was a reality show. "You're 29. Get out now," Emily said, her voice sharp as my books spilled into the dirt and my welding gloves lay twisted in the grass. I didn't scream or beg. I just smiled, loaded the bags into my car, and drove away. 4 months later, Emily sent 35 messages, all asking the same question: "Where are you?" I haven't answered. I'm about to share something close to my heart, but first, I want to know you're here with me. Drop a hi in the comments or tell me where you're from. Even the smallest connection makes a story feel heard. Thank you. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Every story I share is a piece of my truth, and knowing you're listening gives me strength to keep going. My name is Ethan Carter, and this is what really happened. That morning started with weak coffee and the soft scrape of Emily's thumb scrolling her phone. Sunlight cut clean stripes through the kitchen blinds in Asheville, North Carolina. I told her what I'd rehearsed all night: I start the steady job on Monday. Full-time, with benefits. I can finally pay you back. She nodded, eyes glued to her screen. Good, she said, and I swallowed the urge to make it weird. She'd let me stay when I needed it, and gratitude felt like choking down glass without flinching. I cleared my plate, rinsed it quietly, and she kissed my cheek in a way that felt staged, like she was posing for an invisible camera. I packed my duffel, the clatter of welding gear echoing, and told her I'd be gone 2 days for a maintenance run. Her "drive safe" landed like punctuation at the end of someone else's sentence. When I pulled back into our street earlier than planned, the light was low, and neighbors stood on porches like cardboard cutouts. Black garbage bags lined the gate like a memorial to a life someone wanted erased. A sleeve of my hoodie hung from a tier. My books bled into the grass. My monitor leaned against the mailbox, a gouge scarring its bezel. My welding gloves lay twisted, like they'd lost a fight. Sarah held her phone, front camera on, narrating to the blue glare. "Imagine being 29 and still freeloading," she said, the ring light's reflection bright in her eyes. Jake paced, dragging a bag, then kicked it open, sending paperbacks skidding across gravel. Emily raised her phone, framing me like I was a problem to be solved with better lighting. "You're 29. Get out now," she said, her voice smooth and performative, loud enough for the neighborhood to hear her drawing a line. I picked up a stack of notebooks and a shirt I liked, folding it on instinct. Then came the sting, a cold smack against my cheekbone, followed by keys clattering onto the driveway. David, my stepfather, stood at the top of the steps, jaw locked. "You're not my son," he said. Across the street, a dog froze mid-pee. A neighbor's camera blinked red. The old woman on the corner didn't move. I could have told them about the call I got last week. The shop needed a night guy after I finished the contract in Raleigh. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a path. I could have shown them the ledger in my notes app, the way interest chews through a month and leaves you light. But they weren't listening for answers. They wanted a scene. So I gave them nothing. I lifted the monitor with both hands, eased it into the back seat, and gathered shirts, cords, charger bricks, and the dented tin holding my drill bits. My cheek ached where the keys hit, a small, warm bloom making everything else colder. Sarah narrated. Jake smirked. Emily tracked me with the steadiness of someone who loves good footage. I closed the trunk softly, the way you do when leaving a place for the last time, and looked at them. "You'll hear from me soon," I said, not loud, not for the porch audience, just for the people who'd turned my life into content. I got in the car, smiled like I was sealing something inside, and drove away. The road out of Asheville felt like a hose finally unkinked. I didn't let my hands shake. I didn't check the rear view to see if they were still filming. I drove until the sun sank behind the pines, and the highway stretched through a nothingness that let my lungs breathe again. Somewhere between mile markers, a memory hit, the hospital room, antiseptic and winter air, my grandfather Henry's hand finding mine through the blanket. He pressed a white envelope into my palm, like a secret he'd saved his whole life. "Open it only if things get bad," he whispered, eyes bright with certainty, like he was handing me a compass. I hadn't opened it. I'd buried it under old tax forms and a lease I never signed. But as the last daylight faded and the dashboard cast my face in soft green, I knew two things: I wasn't going back to that house, and this was the exact kind of bad he'd warned me about. I called my friend Mike in Santa Fe. He didn't ask why, just said the porch light would be on. By the time I crossed the state line, the bruise on my cheek had bloomed mean and purple. I touched it, winced, and felt something steadier than anger settle in. Silence can be a weapon if you wield it right. I planned to. Mike's place sat near the rail yards, where the wind carried the faint smell of rust and pine smoke at night. He handed me a chipped mug and a worn blanket, then left me alone on the sagging couch, exactly what I needed. I set my duffel at my feet and pulled out the envelope from a folder labeled with a joke name I no longer found funny. Thick paper, my name in Henry's tight, blocky handwriting. The flap opened cleanly, like it had been waiting for this silence. Inside was his letter: if they've done what I feared, stop apologizing for breathing. You are not a burden. I have arranged what I could. The rest was neat, legal, and devastating: a living trust with dates and stamps, my name beside real percentages, 40% of the Asheville house, 50% of a cabin in Summit County, Utah, 35% of a commercial building on Riverbend Avenue in Denver. Notarized acknowledgments, recorded deeds, and a white business card with a name that sounded like it told the truth to rooms that didn't want to hear it: Atticus Vale, Estate and Property Law. My hands shook, not from fear, but because something in me clicked into place. I photographed everything carefully: page, stamp, signature, the embossed seal kissing the paper like a promise. I backed the photos up to the cloud and an old drive I'd carried for years. When I plugged it in, a folder blinked up: Henry_voice. I hovered, almost opened it, then closed the window. Not yet. I read the letter again, slower. At the bottom, under Henry's looping H, was a line I'd missed: Vale knows the calendar. We met twice about this. He'll expect you if you need him. In the envelope's pocket, a clipped slip listed dates from last year and a note in Henry's hand about protections if they turned me into a performance. My chest tightened, not with pain, but with being seen from the past. Henry had planned for their love of an audience. He'd seen me before anyone else did. I stared at the ceiling as the heater clicked on, thinking of Emily's steady phone, Sarah's ring light, Jake's foot splitting a bag, David's keys catching bone. I thought of the neighborhood watching me unmade like it was a show. Then I thought of Henry's first order: stop apologizing for breathing. It collided with a truth I'd learned the hard way: silence without a plan is surrender, but silence with counsel is control. I texted the number on the card, introducing myself. The reply came fast from an assistant: Mr. Vale can see you tomorrow afternoon if you're available. In Mike's small room, a streetlight cut a silver stripe across the bookshelf. Available felt like the first yes I'd given myself in a long time. I confirmed the appointment, set an alarm, and laid out the documents on the coffee table like a map of a life that didn't need their approval: 40%, 50%, 35%. Numbers that weren't abstract, backed by deeds and seals and a nameplate in Denver. I thought of the Utah cabin, summers the first never got, weekends spent welding someone else's dream while mine waited in a glove compartment. I thought of the Riverbend building, seen only from David's passenger seat as he bragged about tenants. I tucked the envelope under the couch cushion like a kid hiding treasure and ate the plate Mike brought, not realizing how hungry I was. You good? He asked. I will be, I said, meaning it in a way I hadn't all year. My phone lit up with a message from Emily. I didn't open it. Some things earn your silence. Some earn your lawyer. Vale's office sat in a stone building near Capitol Hill, Denver, the walls smelling of waxed wood, a grandfather clock ticking like it measured silence's weight. Atticus Vale shook my hand once, opened the envelope, and turned the trust's pages like he already knew what he'd find. Valid, he said. They can't sell, mortgage, or profit without you. He slid over recorder's office printouts, fingers on sections spelling out my rights: access to full accounting, entitlement to income, my signature required for major transactions. The printer hummed, spitting out rental ledgers, 3 years of bookings at the Utah cabin, steady tenant payments at Riverbend. The totals climbed past $50,000, money I'd never seen. Vale showed me a loan file. They'd used Riverbend as collateral, but the signature line for me was blank. If the bank approved without it, they're exposed. If your family hid it, they're exposed, he said, words steady and clinical, heavier than any shout. I stayed quiet. The evidence was a barricade they'd built against me, but left a door open. 2 steps, Vale continued. First, demand full disclosure: accounting, leases, receipts. Second, demand repayment of your share and seek a court-appointed independent property manager to remove their conflict of interest. He pulled an addendum from the file: if I was humiliated or forced out, a court could install third-party management. That video at the gate qualifies, he said, showing a still, trash bags at the fence, Emily's phone raised, her voice scripted for an audience. My throat caught, not with grief, but with recognition no one in that family had ever given me. Vale showed an email from a prior manager where Sarah suggested turning my eviction into a recurring online series. Her words, light and playful, became damning on paper. You have leverage, Vale said. He drafted notices, demands for payment, breach notices, requests for oversight, alerts to the bank about missing authorization. I told him all communication goes through his office. My voice surprised me, calm, unshaken. I sent contact lists and uploaded my scans. He filed them neatly, set a deadline, and reserved the right to litigate if they ignored it. I left in the late afternoon, papers heavy in my bag, steps light. My phone buzzed 3 times on the stone steps. I let it hum unanswered. Some conversations deserve only a letterhead with a seal. Back in Santa Fe, Mike's apartment smelled of pine boards and last night's fire. The scratched monitor and documents sat like a fortress on the table. My phone vibrated constantly. Sarah texted, "Don't be mad. It was just content. I'll take it down." Her profile photo smiled like a filter could erase the gate. I forwarded it to Vale with a note, "Please respond." Jake's voicemail came next, thick with anger, "You're tearing the family apart. Sign the papers and come back." I didn't listen to the end, filing it as evidence. David texted, clipped and managerial, "No need to escalate. Come sign a few papers." I forwarded it and muted alerts. At the shop, the hiss of welders and smell of hot steel gave me rhythm. During lunch, I stepped outside and saw Jake leaning against my car, arms folded like he owned the ground. I walked toward him, keys in hand. "You're trespassing," I said evenly. "Step away." He smirked, teeth clenched. "You think papers will save you? You're playing with fire." The shop door opened, 2 coworkers stepped out with sodas, calling my name like a reminder I wasn't alone. Jake spat toward the ground, eyes hard, then backed off. "This won't end how you think," he muttered, shoulders tight with a first loss. I filed an incident report, timestamp, description, license plate. Security pulled footage, a clear shot of Jake's face and words. I sent it to Vale. His reply came fast, added to record, included in next notice. That evening, word spread from Asheville. Someone clipped Sarah's video, added subtitles, and posted it in a community group. A neighbor commented that the Carter family wasn't what they seemed. Another asked under a company post, "Who really owns the Denver building?" David's reply scrolled out of sight beneath demands for transparency. I didn't join in. I cooked a meal in my small kitchen, washed dishes under a dripping faucet, and set my phone face down. I pulled out the SIM card, wiped it, slid it back, and laughed at my own ritual, and at my hand no longer twitching to respond. Sarah texted again, longer, calling me Big Brother, pleading that things had gone too far, saying she'd lose sponsorships. I read halfway, then closed it. Stopping meant letting them rewrite the story to keep me humiliated. My silence wasn't surrender, it was choosing the right channel. Vale's office prepared letters to the bank, outlining their misuse of the trust and missing signatures. At lunch, my supervisor handed me a sealed memo. The parking lot incident was logged, and security advised police involvement if it happened again. I signed, folded it, and slipped it into my glove box. Driving home, the Santa Fe wind scraped across the windshield. Power shifts slowly, like sunlight sliding along a wall. They thought I'd fold at their voices. Then they called, showed up, threatened. Now they were realizing others were watching, people they couldn't control. That night, by the window with station lights blinking across the tracks, the quiet didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like a locked door in my name, the wind outside less a warning and more a steady breath. Tomorrow, Vale's envelopes would go out, sealed with signatures that mattered. The story was leaving their performance for the weight of paper. The knock came hard, rattling my apartment's thin door. The camera feed showed all 4, Emily's shoulders shaking, David's arms crossed like steel bars, Jake smirking against the wall, Sarah caught between crying and angling her phone. The yellow corridor light caught the wetness on Emily's face as she called, "Come home. We'll delete the clip. It doesn't have to be like this." David slammed his hand against the door, the frame groaning. "Stop acting like a child. You're dragging this out," he barked. Jake muttered curses, pacing like he wanted a fight. Sarah whispered to her lens. I stood inside, phone glowing with the feed, and let my voice carry through the wood. "All communication goes through my attorney. If you don't leave, I'll call security." Silence fell heavy. They shifted, shuffled, maybe realizing their rehearsed script wouldn't land. Emily tried again, voice breaking, "We can fix this. Just come out. Just us. No lawyers." But my silence was weighted, deliberate, mine. They retreated, shoes scuffing concrete. Sarah tilted her phone, capturing even the walk away. I sent the clip to Vale before exhaling. By morning, his assistant forwarded a packet. An email thread from an old property manager showed Sarah joking about a "kick out the freeloader" series. Her casual words turned heavy on paper. Another document showed David signed a loan using Riverbend, my name missing, a violation with teeth. I wrote in my journal, "They are loud, but my silence holds proof." Hours later, a sponsor dropped Sarah's contract after the email leaked, citing values. An investor, rattled by the resurfaced eviction clip, pulled money from David's company. The footage they thought would shrink me was collapsing their stage. I leaned back, the bruise on my cheek faded to a yellow shadow, and felt calm. They'd pounded on my door, demanding a scene. Instead, they'd written themselves into evidence. Vale's conference room smelled of leather and polish, a space for verdicts. My family sat across, faces tight, their lawyer's eyes darting to Vale like he sensed defeat. Vale restated the terms: repayment of the withheld $50,000, a neutral property manager, and a signed admission of wrongdoing. David snapped, "This is betrayal," his voice sharp enough to try cutting through the paper. I looked at him and said, "The truth isn't betrayal. It begins when the performance ends." One by one, they signed. Emily's hand shook, her signature crooked, eyes avoiding mine. Jake's pen tore the paper, leaving a ragged but valid mark. Sarah's phone slipped, clattering, its screen lighting up, another 10,000 followers gone. She froze, flipped it face down, but the damage burned into the room. I took the pen last, drew a line, and wrote, "This signature affirms that I, Ethan Carter, have legal rights and will never again be treated as a burden." Their lawyer stammered about additions, but Vale nodded sharply. "It stands," he said, sliding the document back. The pen rolled off the table, its hollow tap like a closing door. I stood, gathered the pages, and felt the weight shift fully to my side. I wasn't defending myself anymore. I was done. I walked out, the Denver air crisp in my lungs. Behind me, their voices rose, Emily scolding Sarah, David snapping at Jake. Their empire of performance cracked in public view. Vale joined me on the steps, file under his arm. "They'll sign," he said. "They don't have the choice they think." I nodded, feeling justice settle, not in shouts or fists, but in patience, paper, and silence sharpened into steel. My new place in Santa Fe had uneven floorboards and a window catching desert light in long stripes. I stacked my books on a shelf Mike helped haul up, set the dented monitor on the desk, and let it stand like a scar I didn't hide. The room smelled of dust and sage, untouched by anyone else. My phone buzzed with 35 unread messages from Emily, spread over 4 months. The first were angry, demanding. The last, sent yesterday, was short, "Where are you? Please come home." I scrolled through, letting the words wash over me without sinking in. They were just noise now. In the drawer, the signed agreement sat, for shaky signatures. I didn't need to reread it, its weight was enough. Next to it was the old drive with Henry_voice. I opened it, and his voice filled the room, warm and steady. "Kiddo, you'll be alright, even if they never say sorry. Some people only value you when they can use you. When you stop letting them, they'll call it betrayal. Keep being who you are." The static trailed like a hand leaving my shoulder. I sat, the light shifting, the desert wind whistling. For the first time, there was no weight, no cameras, no accusations, just silence, earned. The phone buzzed again. I didn't pick it up. Those messages no longer held me. Henry's voice lingered, and I realized silence wasn't punishment, it was my declaration. My life, my room, my name on the lease, my papers in the drawer, my choice not to return. I sat by the window until the sun sank, orange bleeding into the horizon, and felt not just survival or escape, but freedom. Mine alone. I never thought I'd carry my life in garbage bags or that the people meant to protect me would weaponize silence and cameras. I told myself it was temporary, that I could swallow pride, and they'd see my effort. But some people don't want you to stand, they want you on your knees, so they can point, perform, and call it love while feeding on your shame. The night I drove away, I thought I'd lost everything. The bruise on my face felt like failure, their voices proof they were right. But Henry's letter, steady as a storm anchor, reminded me I wasn't a burden. That changed the game. Once you stop believing their lies, you see their stage for what it is, built on your silence. In Vale's office, hearing the evidence, hidden dollars, faked loans, clips cut into content, I realized walking away quietly wasn't weakness. It was strength's beginning. Silence isn't surrender if the paper, proof, and truth speak. It was never about shouting louder. It was about refusing their show. When they signed, hands shaking, they didn't just admit wrongdoing, they closed the door they'd left open when they threw my life to the curb. I walked away with papers, but more, with the understanding that my worth was never theirs to measure. Now, in this Santa Fe apartment, with desert wind and Henry's voice saved on a file, the 35 messages don't hurt. They don't pull me back. They remind me how far I've come. Silence is my declaration. If you've been cast aside, told you're too much or not enough, made into someone else's story, know this, you are not a burden. You don't need their stage. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing, just let your actions, boundaries, and refusal to shrink speak. I share this because I'm not alone. If you've been waiting for a sign to walk away, to choose peace, to stop explaining to those who never listened, let this be it. You're allowed to choose yourself. Silence can feel like freedom. If this resonates, let me know you're here, say listening or where you're from. Every connection reminds us we're not alone. If you want to hear more stories of survival and truth, subscribe. Every voice joining this community proves silence doesn't erase us, it amplifies us. Thank you for listening, for being here, for letting me turn pain into something that might help someone keep going. My name is Ethan Carter, and this is my truth.